Hello, everyone. It's John Gonzalez here, and trying something new, a new endeavor. Today is episode 1 of a new podcast. Don't have a name yet for it. I guess this is just kind of like a soft opening or the pre-launch for my next project. I don't have a backdrop yet. Don't have a name for the show. I don't have fancy music yet, although that will come. This is kind of like a rough sketch of what I eventually want to do, where I want to go. I would love your feedback. Please reach out to me on social media, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok. Yes, we will be on TikTok. Or just email me, michigangonzo@gmail.com. That's michigangonzo@gmail.com. But starting a new endeavor here, and this is kind of episode 1. It's more of a test project for some friends that are putting on a pretty cool conference coming up March 9th. It's Building a Legacy. I went to this conference last year, the CAFA Catholic Men's Conference in Grand Rapids, actually at St. Robert of Newminster Parish in Ada. Last year was just transformative for me. Had a great time hanging out with my friend Josh Cohane, the campus minister at West Catholic High School, and his family, and other men from the greater Grand Rapids area. Like I said, transformative. It was an amazing day spent in listening to speakers, prayer. There was confession, a good lunch. If anything, go for the lunch. I'm all about the food. You know that. No beverages, but that's okay. More to come on that. But anyway, today's inaugural podcast. Again, if you have a suggestion for a name, I would love to hear it. I'm going to talk to people that just have been inspiring me along the way on this journey of mine, and hopefully your journey as well. Today we are talking to a new friend. His name is Michael Gormley. Gomer, people call him. I don't think I call him this on the interview. No, I didn't call him Gomer. He is founder of layevangelist.com. Really cool website. Definitely go check it out, layevangelist.com. He's also co-host of the podcast Catching Foxes. He leads parish missions and youth events across the country, preaching, teaching, challenging, and changing hearts for Christ. That's on the official document. But, having consumed his content, in other words, I've listened to several of his podcasts. I've listened to his show. I've gone to his website, and he's someone I would definitely pinpoint as a person who has been an influence on me the last few years. And as I begin to dive deeper into what I believe and what's moving my heart. So he's been really, really inspirational. I didn't kind of like go fanboy crazy on him, although I could have, but I kept it in check. I hope you enjoy the interview. It's like I said, a work in progress. And he talks about the conference, what he's going to be talking about and addressing at the conference. There are 3 other speakers, by the way. Curtis Martin, president and founder of Focus, the Fellowship of Catholic University Students. Also, Father Robert McTeague, spiritual director, author, professor of philosophy and theology, and host of the Catholic Current. He'll be there. And John Yep, CEO of Catholics for Catholics. If you want to register online, you can do that, buildingalegacy.org. That's buildingalegacy.org. I believe the early registration period is over, but if you get a chance to go. See what moves you there. All right. Let's see if I can get Michael on the line here. All right, Michael, we'll start with the hard-hitting question first.
Let's go.
Have you ever been to Grand Rapids? And if you have, what do you think about Grand Rapids?
To my knowledge, I've done a lot of traveling over the years, so I'm going to say no, I've never been to Grand Rapids. I've been in different places near, but never exactly the area.
Okay, near would be what? Detroit, maybe?
Detroit, Lansing, Ypsilanti. What was the other place? I did a great high school retreat about 45 minutes outside of Detroit. Just stuff more around the Detroit area. Yeah.
The Detroit metro area, as I like to say.
Yeah.
Here, right? Well, you're based in Texas, right?
I am in the Houston metro area. I'm about 45 minutes north of Houston proper.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I've spent not a lot of time there, but sometime. Someday I'll tell you a story. We don't know each other that well, but I'll tell you a story someday about the day I met Barry Bonds at the Galleria. So there you go.
Nice. I'm a
big baseball fan, so that was a once in a lifetime a chance to meet one of the legendary baseball players of all time during the steroid era, which is a whole different topic altogether.
So many
Are you a baseball?
asterisks.
Are you a baseball fan?
So this is what I tell everyone when it comes up, all the men in my life, when it comes up to the awkward conversation of, so what sports do you follow? The answer is none of them. I don't care to, but I love watching games, right? So obviously, we're like, I've been to Astros games a bunch of times, the Houston Texans football games. Like, I love going to games. I love watching it. I do not follow anything. My kids, the youngest is 8, oldest is 13, 2 girls, 2 boys. All 4 of them know way more about football and baseball and NASCAR. My wife's a big NASCAR fan. They know way more than I do. And it's funny. It's funny. Like on Sundays, I'm like, honey, I want to watch YouTube videos. Why are we watching sports ball? So, yeah, needless to say, I have 2 phrases that I use whenever we talk about sports, which is if it's about football, and whatever team someone's talking about, I say, hey, yeah, you know the difference between that team and a dollar bill? You could still get 4 quarters out of a dollar bill. Hey-o. And then the other thing is whenever you figure out what team they like, you just say, you know what? This year, they're due. They're due. And then that's it. Then I moonwalk out of the conversation, and I quickly run away before they ask a follow-up question.
That's great. Well, you're a smart person. You probably had to spend a lot of time studying, so you didn't have time for sports. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Me, on the other hand, wanting to fit in every situation, studied up not only my home team, the Detroit Tigers or Detroit Lions or Pistons or Red Wings. I decided to learn all the teams. So if I ever struck up a conversation with someone from Houston and say, hey, how about those Astros? Team looks a little rough this year. What do you think?
Then I say, oh, yeah, totally. Hey, I got to go. What do you think about the hypostatic union as taught by St. Thomas Aquinas? Like, watch it.
Yeah,
let's go.
That'll clear a room quickly. Well, it depends on the circumstance you're all right.
Yeah.
But no, I love your content, what you do. Been a big fan for a while, so this is a privilege to be able to talk to you. So thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Looking forward to seeing you March 9th. You'll be in Grand Rapids at the CAPA Men's Catholic Conference at St. Robert of Newminster Parish in Ada. I attended last year. The theme this year is building a legacy. So I believe you're the legacy block, right?
I think so. Buckle up. That's all I'm going to say. Just buckle up.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about what you might be presenting. I don't want to steal all your thunder because I'm sure you have a plenty that you've been working on to present to this group. It's a great group, by the way. If you're curious, I was impressed last year. It was packed. A lot of men of faith, coming together, sharing, being open to whatever God's calling them to do in their lives, listening to the guest speakers, and trying to get a little takeaway that they can bring home with them. Dr. Sri was one of last year's presenters, and he was a lot of fun. A lot of energy with that guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's awesome. And she's there. Oh, it'll come to me in a second. But for you, what can men expect at this year's conference? What can they expect from the Mr. Lay Evangelist and Catching Fox's podcast?
Yeah, what you can expect. That's a funny thing because I've been rethinking a lot of how I do my presentations a lot lately. So one of the things I hate is when I deal with people and they are unteachable, right? Like I do a lot of like clergy convocations now and stuff, and you can always tell the difference between, and it has nothing to do with age, right? Some of it has to do with years on the job, but there are just certain people who feel like I got it all. I'm an ace in my field. I'm unteachable. Anything you have to say is just a waste of my time. And then there are other people who are the ace in their field, who's got it, who nail it, crush it, whatever. And yet they're hungry for more knowledge. And I never want to be that first guy. I always want to be that second guy. So I've been trying to overhaul a lot of my approaches to giving talks. But the things that are common with me is I never give a talk that doesn't challenge people to their core identity, what they're doing, what they're not doing. The number one enemy that I see for a lot of men is passivity, especially when it comes to their faith. They always are waiting on their wives to take the kids to mass, to do this, to do that. And if you actually spend time in the New Testament and are observant of what it says for fathers and for older men as 2 separate categories, we're the ones who should be dragging our wives to everything. Like, it should never be the other way around. The biblical worldview is a worldview where men are fully switched on and engaged. And so my job, regardless of what topic I have, that's always what I want to do. So just for instance, last night I was in Lilburn, Georgia at St. John Newman Parish. And, I sometimes will do the joke of so many men are at church and they have bruised ribs from their wives elbowing them, like, did you listen to that, sweetie? Did you hear them? Right. But, one of the big things is the lack of involvement in men in like catechetics, right? Teaching Sunday school, RE, faith formation, whatever you call it, your parish. And it's like a 5-to-1 or 10-to-1 ratio of moms to dads. And it's like, what if we build a youth group? Like, just picture a youth group that is staffed, volunteered, and chaperoned by nothing but dads. You would change the entire tone of a parish, right? So that's my goal. So what I want to do, honestly, every single time is I want to drill into men's minds the gospel of Jesus Christ, that there is no salvation without Jesus, that Jesus is the confrontation with our sin and he confronts it with love and mercy, but that justice is real and we are called to be just, loving, and merciful men, right? So our response to his initiative, and then from that, you can't do it alone, you need community, right? Men don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that they need other people. They don't want to hear that they rely on other people. But the devil loves nothing more than isolating people. Divide, and then you conquer. And so if we're strong together, then we can do this, and then become men of the liturgy, right? The sacramental life is the life of Christ lived out in his parish. And so those are the things that you will constantly hear me harp on, because Acts 2:42 says, and they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, the gospel, and to the fellowship, community, to the breaking of the bread, liturgy, and to the prayers, your own personal prayer life, devotional life, whatever. So that's what I focus on 9 times out of 10.
Well, we will look forward to that. But I guess just kind of hearing some of what you're saying, your talking points, I guess, what people will hear at the conference on March 9th is how do we get to this point? Well, how did men become passive? How did men become, I don't know, just we've got the privilege now to just like phone it in if we want to, and no one's going to call us out.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, like, I'm a student of history, right? And so when, they have this like kind of sexist phrase that's making a comeback, a woman's place is in the home, right? Like, like that 1950s, Leave It to Beaver kind of mom, nuclear family. But the reality was, up until the industrial age, a man's place was in the home too. If you were, the only people that did not work in the home were the professions, meaning you were a lawyer or something like that. All the trades and craftsmen and farmers all worked from home. Now, if you lived in the city, your shop was downstairs, you were upstairs, your family's life was upstairs, the home was upstairs, and the family participated in the life of the shop. But 96 to 98% of the world's population until the Industrial Revolution was agricultural. And when we forget that, we realize like it was small family farms that dominated human life. You died 5 miles from where you were born, which meant you knew everyone knew you. The town gave you meaning, purpose, and identity, right? If you worked on your church, you knew that you were laboring for something that would last for hundreds of years, and it would last for your children's children's children. You want to talk about a legacy? That's a legacy. Working for something, for a future not our own, right? And this generational outlook makes sense when you have a family culture, when everyone is at home, and when everything is near. But then you have the industrial age where dad, because it's brutal manual labor, dad goes into town to work. So then you move to the cities. So now you're uprooted from this 500 years of your family living in this rural town. Now you're moving into the city, and you live a city life, which is totally different from a country life. And the city life means, yeah, you might live in the city, but you work in the factory. And you're always going out, or maybe you work in a shop, but the shop is you live in an apartment building now. You don't live in a thing where you're right above it. So you're going to a factory doing brutal labor for 12, 14 hours a day. You're coming home. Dad is no longer at work or at the house, at the home. You're no longer murderously close to your family. And so you're not forming. You're not forming your kids. You're not being formed with your wife. You're not growing in holiness together. She manages the home, you manage work, you come home, don't talk to daddy, let him rest. And that kind of mentality carried us up into the knowledge age that we have now. So now men don't go to factories as much, right? Men, we are knowledge workers. Well, guess what? Once you take the physical component out of work, now it's all a mental thing. You're sitting at computers, clickety-clacking, problem solving. Guess what? Women can do that. They can do it just as well as men can. And so now you not only have two income homes where both parents are now away from home, which radically redefines what home is, but now you have a fundamental disruption in the sexes. Like, hey, for hundreds of thousands of years, men were the hunters, women were the gatherers and the nurturers. What do we do now? And we're still trying to solve this problem. And feminism has given us some answers. And the reaction to feminism, it's known as the red pill movement, the manosphere, has given us some answers. But they tend to give us more distortions and problems. And so what I want to do is to be able to come in and give the biblical vision, which comes from an agricultural, familistic mindset, but also how to apply that today in a way that is saving, right? In a way that blesses women, that blesses men, and that blesses children. Because I truly believe, like, the legacy that we're trying to leave future generations is not just daddy was able to pay, mommy and daddy, were able to take us to these really cool corporate vacations every year, but we lived a transformed life, right? I was just talking with a guy who's going to help run the conference, Mike, who's also works for Paradisus Dei. And me and Mike were talking, and he said, the saddest thing is men my age, when you talk to them about what brings them joy, it's the vacations that they go on. And he said, the reality is for so many people, life is not an adventure. Life is the thing that happens between vacation. And he said, it's just the saddest thing for him.
Well, we spent a lot of time, we talked about baseball real quick at the beginning of this conversation. And, I, in a way, I guess I fell into the trap of, wanting to take the kids to, baseball tournaments and, travel baseball or travel sports on the weekends, and that became really prevalent. And I noticed people would say, like, why are you guys always on the road? Why are you guys always traveling? And I said to myself, well, I don't know if this is the right thing or wrong thing to do. I said, but we're together. Right? The family team, the unit is together. And we're experiencing the life together on the road or wherever we're at, or, a youth baseball game in the evening. We're going as a family, participating and coming back as a family, eating together before we go or eating after late night, drive through with a Wendy's Frosty or something, right? So we're still together. And I think that's what I think a lot of families are missing, that point of like, I'll just see you there. All right, we'll catch a pizza later, whatever. We're making the intention to be together.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much I always want to talk about, right? Like when we talk about these
Yes.
There's a wonderful book called Hold On to Your Kids. And it was written by these two child psychologists. And they talk about, like, just imagine, how do we learn about life and how to navigate life? We should learn from our parents who have, and other non-parent adults who have already navigated life, right? And who know us and love us and care about us. Most high school students today, middle school students today, could not name 3 non-parent adults who care about them. So, okay, that's already a tragic thing. And that's been a stat that's been around since Clinton was in office. And they had the Presidential Council on Adolescent Development, and they came up with 40 developmental assets to help a kid successfully transition from adolescence to adulthood. And they said, if you could distill the 40 to 1, which one is the most important? They said 3 non-parent caring adults in their life. Most kids can only name 1, which is usually, if they're active in sports, it's their coach. So hold on to your kids. The basic presupposition is, don't let idiots raise your kids. You know who idiots are? Other kids. But most kids, like, I tell that to my kids all the time. I go, you guys are idiots. Not because you're dumb, like you don't understand stuff. You just haven't experienced life and had to weigh, like, how do I deal with, I have 2 friend groups, and these friends are now fighting. How do I deal with that? I have one friend who's being catty and manipulative. How do I deal with that? I have this going on at school, but I also have all these other demands like life and scheduling and stuff. But what ends up happening is, as they get older and they start to form their own identity, their own personality, They need you to be that stable rock, right? But if we give them a smartphone with social media at a young age, middle school, it is not until they are probably 18 years old that they can handle the weight of a smartphone. Most adults can't. So why do we think kids can? But we do it because they really, really want it. Well, I'm lucky that we've built of parents a culture where smartphones are seen as like the devil's workshop. So none of my kids' friends, not a single one of them has an iPhone. Right now, we live in a tratty little homeschool community, so that's part of it. Get away with one step away from going full Amish. So, everyone in our parish is like, when can we get land to just farm? And I'm like, I'm a city boy. But the beautiful thing, please, I talk a lot.
No. You may bring up a point because, you have the hindsight of 20 years ago or whatever year the iPhone came out. And I was one of the first. I'm an early adopter, right, of technology.
Yeah, 2006.
There you go. So, and my kids were fairly young. They were, middle teens or whatever. And I got them all smartphones for Christmas one year. And I look back at that, I'm like, how crazy is that, right? But I remember when I got him for them, and they were they think they were 16, 13, and 12 or something like that. They were fairly young. And I said, this device, don't have it from me now. This device will run your life someday. So my mindset was get to use it.
Train them early.
Yeah, train them early. Be forward thinking as opposed to and didn't realize how fast things would crash.
Yeah. Yeah, and so think about this. I'm not a Luddite. I love Apple technology. I have a $1,500 ultra wide screen monitor right now, and cameras and podcasting equipment. I geek out hard, and I'm an Apple guy. I have a gimbal here for my iPhone to take stabilized video and all this stuff. But all that being said, technology has a place, and it serves us as a tool. And it's meant to be there to, let's say, augment our work, to double 2x, 3x, 4x the output that we're capable of producing. But what happens when we turn that output to our social life? Well, it doesn't scale the same way as it does workload. Oh, look, I can answer email while sitting on the bus going to my office downtown. That's what my dad used to do. Well, actually, so what my dad learned was everyone on the bus was on their phones answering email as he's going to downtown Houston to work at his oil and gas job, right? And he's going down there and he's like, you know what? Everyone is so absorbed in their phones. I have some peace and quiet. I'm going to pray. So he brought a little prayer book, and every morning for 40 minutes, he would get his prayer time in, right? That's awesome. My dad's old school, which is if you send me emails at 5 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm not going to answer it, and you're an idiot for thinking I will. And he would tell people that all the time. But it's supposed to double X our work. But how do you grow your relationships through these devices in a way that matters? Well, you can't really, but you can do it in ways that don't matter, that are vainly superficial. The Facebook like button, the heart, the angry face, all of those things that they spend literally billions of dollars learning how to hack the human brain so that the thing that is entertainment then becomes addictive. That is how every media company sees us, as machines. They will leverage machine learning to make you addicted so that they can make a profit. Meanwhile, they send their kids to nature classroom kindergartens. They don't send their kids to one laptop per child schools. They don't. Google, Microsoft, Apple, they're high up CEOs and all this stuff. Steve Jobs refused to have an iPad in his home before he passed. Isn't that fascinating? That this is the worst of the elitism, is they have no problem destroying the world as long as they profit. And so in my heart of hearts, what I want parents to understand is, your kids, you were talking about the 12, 13, and 16-year-old, they were all guinea pigs. We had no idea. We thought, oh, good, my kid can show me where he is on the GPS. He will never get lost because he has this smartphone. I can always text him. I can always call him. And now we can FaceTime. Ooh, that's magic. But then what happens is the social media apps get loaded, text messaging, and all of a sudden they're owned by a million distracting voices. And again, it's hard to hold on to your kids when you're constantly competing with outside noise. So my kids have a flip phone from Nokia that looks a lot like the flip phone I had 15 years ago. One kid, actually, it's the kid's phone, And if someone's babysitting, they take that phone with them. If they're staying at the house while me and Shannon go on a date or something like that, they have the phone and they can text us and they can call us. That's it. That's all they need.
So your kids have burners, what you're saying.
Yeah. I think they're drug dealers, actually.
They got a burner
They're like,
phone.
Dad, they roll up in these Barbie dream cars. And you're like, what the heck? And it's like, man, I made a G today. And I'm like, holy moly.
No, it's just amazing how fast technology changed.
Yeah.
And how things seem to have changed overnight. But I'll tell you what, I've been diving in. I mean, I'm at the different point in my career where I run a full career already as a journalist and have traveled the country and done so many cool things. And I'm finding out, like, you know what? There's more to life than just trying to climb the corporate ladder. There's more to life than, having the fanciest car or the biggest house in the neighborhood, right? I think that every man gets to that point where you've raised the kids the best you could. Grandkids start coming along, and now you're like, wait a minute. I don't know if I did the right thing. It's over. I missed those years, and it's done. Yeah. But what I do moving forward, I've got to make some changes. And I'm sure a lot of men come up to you at these conferences saying like, hey, I'm in the same boat, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the saddest thing I get is the wet-eyed grandfather who comes to me and says, what have I done wrong? I've done so much things wrong. And it's like, okay, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. And number one, every dad does stuff wrong. I'm sure there are plenty of couches of, the proverbial couch for the psychiatrist's office where people are saying, my daddy didn't love me, whatever. Here's the deal. Men, our job is to challenge. My wife's job is to nurture, right? And when you have both of them going, the challenge and the nurturing, one builds up, the other one lays that foundation after every new level is built, right? And the problem is sometimes men only challenge and it makes the kid feel like you're never good enough. So then there comes the point where the dad has to say, you know what? I'm here to nourish. I'm here to nurture. I'm going to pull it back and I'm going to radically affirm my kid. And then you let your wife take that next step of being the challenge, because it doesn't feel like a challenge necessarily coming from her if she's been doing the nurturing thing, right? So you got to understand like your roles and how you do it. But the wet-eyed grandfather coming to me being like, my adult children have left the faith. That's the number one thing I get. I wish I was more faithful. I wish I discovered that man as you when I was younger. I wish I had these men's conferences. The thing that gets said to me all the time from, we jokingly call them the gray hairs, at all these That Man Is You events and meetings, when I get invited to them, they say, we really wish we had more younger men here, and they all say the same thing. I wish I knew then what I know now because of this program. And so I always tell them, okay, maybe, probably not, but maybe it's too late for your grown kids. I don't know. I don't think it is. I don't think it's ever too late. As long as their heart still beats and your heart still beats, there's hope, right? But number two, you have grandkids that now you can love on, that now you can lead a transformed life as a witness for, and they'll remember when your kids are growing up, they'll know the difference between the passive grandparents who just let the kids do whatever they want and the grandparents who were invested, involved, and gave a dang about them. But the other thing you can do, that what you now know you should have been to other young dads, right? Your children might not want to hear, maybe your son left the faith and he's, 30 and he's got a couple kids and he, Dad, I don't want to hear it, blah, blah, blah. But there is some young dad at your parish that needs to hear it. And I tell people this all the time. I'll say, raise your hand if you have your adult children have left the faith, and all these hands go up. I say, keep them raised if you would give your left hand in order to bring them back to church. And they'll like raise their hand higher. And then I say, keep them raised. Youth minister, I want you to look at all your new volunteers. But then all their hands go down. And I say, I go, look, and this is the part where I get upset. And I lean into it. I say, listen, what you just did is say, this is the thing that breaks my heart the most, but I'm not willing to put forth any effort to help another person go through, to prevent them from going through what I went through. And I'm like, who the hell do you think you are? Get involved. Change a young person's life. Oh, I'm too old. No, don't you understand? We don't have fathers and grandfathers in our lives. We don't. We live on the other side of the country from them. Wouldn't it be amazing if a youth group, my father, my grandfather, surrogate, was there for me? 3 non-parent caring adults. How awesome would it be if you were that person? The greatest lie in youth ministry is it's a young man's game or a young woman's game. That's a lie. Intergenerational love, care, justice, courage, support, challenge. That's what we need, man. That's what we need.
Well, hey, one last question before I let you go here, because I'm not controlling. You're the one in control.
I talk so much. I'm sorry.
No, I love it. It is. I've been tasked. I think I was the last person to be asked, but I have been tasked to lead a Bible study, men's Bible study at our church. It's been dormant pre-COVID. It went dormant. And COVID just didn't happen. And now there's kind of our faith formation person who's asking me to resurrect it, and I'm like, who am I? I don't feel I can't do this. So I kind of said no. And then a couple months later, he's like, hey, I still need someone to do this, right? And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Yeah. And in the meantime, I found out that he emailed everyone, every man in our parish, I think, and I'm the only one that responded, right? So I'm doing it, and it's going to start after Easter. I have no idea what to do. What would be some of your, just real quick, words of advice, tips? Because I went to your website, by the way, and I saw some resources there for me, which was great. Thank you very much. Cool. Evangelist.com. I went there. I'm like, okay, I can learn from this. I can learn from that. What are your tips real quick?
Yeah, my tips. Okay. Most people don't know what the Bible is or how to study the Bible. They don't even know how to approach it, especially if they're Catholic. Yikes. So what we want to do is to equip them with the skills to pay the bills, right? You got to deal with understanding what the Bible is. So just helping people. I used to do this class for adults called Presume No Knowledge, right? So that was like what I would tell myself. Like, let's imagine they know nothing. And if they know nothing, what do I need to tell them? And it's like the Bible opens like this, right? This is the table of contents, Old and New Testament, right? So I would spend the whole day, for the whole class, an hour and a half-ish, on just the table of contents to get them to understand the revelation of God to Israel and its fulfillment in Christ Jesus and the New Testament, right? So once they understood that, then I did a class on the Pentateuch and a class on the Gospels, right? So that was like, you just need to navigate it. You just need to navigate it. Okay, so that's one approach. The other approach, you could take a study like Scott Hahn's Genesis to Jesus, or Jeff Cavins through Ascension Press has a quick journey through the Bible. I think now it's called Unlocking the Mysteries of the Bible.
I saw that.
It's a shorter, so it's like a 6-week or 8-week program to help walk you through the big picture of the Bible. The big picture is great because it's like, oh, this is where all the little things fit in. That's another awesome way to do it. Lastly, I would say either you take a book and you do a book study, and I would only recommend, if you're going to start with the Gospels if you're going to do a book study. Men need to learn that Jesus Christ is not a hippie or a wisp of a thing that a strong wind will blow away, that he actually is made of sterner stuff and you could bank your whole life on him, right? Frank Sheed says that in his book, To Know Christ Jesus and What Difference Does Jesus Make? Incredible books that really help ground this stuff.
Reading this right now.
Oh, you're reading Theology for Beginners. So good, so good. So he has a book called Map for Life, and he has another one called, or the other two, To Know Christ Jesus and What Difference Does Jesus Make? Yeah. And What Difference Does Jesus Make is really great because he's like making a defense of Jesus in your life. Yeah. It's pretty powerful. But I say all this because we need to know him, right? So you could go and have everyone buy the Ignatius Study Bible, Gospel of Luke or Gospel of Mark. And so Scott Hahn and Curtis Mitch wrote the commentary on it, and the commentary is underneath. The text of the Bible is above. It's the RSV translation, good headings, good footnotes, and you just read through it, right? So this way you're giving them a grasp of Scripture, but you're giving them tools to understand, like, oh, there might be a deeper meaning here than just the English translation reveals. The other thing with men's groups, if you're just doing is it a men's Bible study?
Just men.
All right, just dudes, bro fest. Then another
I'm going to bring beer. Is that okay? Is that acceptable?
Yeah, BYOB. It's beautiful. Bring your own Bible. But the idea at its core is hitting thematic study of men's stuff. So this is what it means to be a man. This is what it means to be a father. This is what it means to be a husband, right? So, or husband first, then father. And I'm sure there are good books out there. There's a lot of books like Boys to Men. I really loved that book. There's a couple books that were written in like the early 2000s on growing in virtue. I can't remember who wrote them, but if you're doing a Bible study, you want to hit, especially like St. Paul's advice to fathers and to men, like, this is how you live the Christian life. This is what Christianity is, right? So First Timothy is probably the most kind of potent and powerful. There's obviously tons of Old Testament stuff that's out there, but like trying to do research, like you could Google, you could say, let's study Adam, let's study Noah, let's study Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. Let's study Moses, maybe Moses and Joshua, maybe a couple prophets, and then Jesus and Paul and Peter. And you have these like, that's a semester right there, right?
Yeah.
That's a semester right there. Yeah.
Oh,
And you know what'd be awesome?
Yeah.
You know what'd be awesome? I want to offer this to you.
Sure.
Like if we can make it work and you have a group of guys, like one night, we could do, I could zoom in for you guys.
Yeah.
And do a like big picture, welcome to the Bible. Let me give you, and they could not even be in the classroom, right? They could be at home with a glass of wine and everyone just hop on and it's like the pre-kickoff or something like that. I would love to do that. And I don't need any prep for that. So you could tell me the night before. Happy to do that.
What time we're doing it? You're good.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. This is fantastic. Mike Gormley, he'll be at the CAFA conference coming up March 9th here in Grand Rapids at St. Robert of Westminster. St. Robert of Newminster Parish in Ada. Hey, in 2 seconds or less, this is for the video for the conference people. Why don't you give them a quick little shout out of in like a minute or a half or whatever of like why they need to come to this conference.
Yeah, listen, men grow best when we grow together, right? And so our understanding at our core of our Christian faith is that Jesus died and rose to give us new life. But many men in the church do not feel newness of life. They're bored. You need to stop being bored with the gospel, which is the way you do it is by realizing the gospel is not there to make you comfortable, right? That's some corporate lies sold to you by modern American propaganda. Me and you were meant to live, to give ourselves heroically to the people that we love and the people who need us around us. This is what makes saints, and saints are happy, right? Saints are not bored. Saints are not exhausted. Saints are happy because they are fulfilled, because they're doing something that'll last, something that'll leave a legacy. That's what we want this conference to be for you. So it doesn't matter where you are in your faith, barely believing or rock solid, we want you there to catch the vision that God has for your life, to become fully alive, as Jesus says in John 10:10, right? That's what we want.
Beautiful. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. I know we went back and forth on making this happen, and I just want to say thank you so much.
Yeah, this is awesome. God bless you, man.
Thank you. We'll be in touch.
All right.